I want to know the secret to your beautiful hair.
I washed it this morning.
Dance Journey! With Tracy in LA. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Dance Journey. Today we have a special guest, Navi Lee.
Hello.
She's my new dance friend as of like a couple weeks ago or something. We had like an interesting meeting because we usually both take a contemporary Lolly's class on Wednesday night. That's my crazy night that I take 3 classes, ballet, technique with Sarah, and then contemporary with Lolly. And you, Navi, noticed that I took, well, I think it was like after contemporary, and you were like, what did you say to me? You were like,
It's like, did you take, I saw you in ballet, and then I take a break between ballet and contemporary, and I eat. And I was like, girl, when do you eat?
She was like, you took 3 classes, and I didn't really know her at the time. And so I was like, yeah. And then I was like, wait, how did you know? Because it seemed like she just took contemporary. Like, how did she know that I took 3 classes? But then she was like, I was in ballet. And then I was like, wait, what do you do in between the classes?
I sit outside and I eat.
She eats. Or you said you go to like Vons and get a Gatorade or something.
Love a Gatorade from Vons.
I was like, as long as you have something fun to do in between. But yeah, I usually do try to bring like a little snack. But so we just kind of started talking because she's like actually a really encouraging person and was just like saying encouraging stuff to me like, oh, you guys did so good in technique or something like that. And so she was just really sweet. So we just started chatting, and then I was like, oh, are you walking out right now? And you were like, yeah. And so we started to walk out, and I thought we were walking to our cars together, but turns out Navi is also super rad and like takes the bus. I was like, you take the bus in LA? Oh my gosh, that's super like hardcore. But you were like, no, I always do it.
Yeah.
So basically we're walking to my car and she's walking towards to get on the bus. And so we're just like chatting, and then you started telling me about your, how you usually do more acrobatic work. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I started with like silks, and then I moved to lyra, which is the hanging metal hoop. And then I moved to pole more recently, like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And that has always been like the easiest dance for me. Like I always found that the strength-based stuff was really important, and I liked upper body. And I kind of grew up in that, like, circus-y scene, so it was all really familiar.
What do you mean when you say you grew up in the circus-y scene?
So, like my folks were burners, so, like, Burning Man people.
Oh.
So I grew up, like, around that. My dad did flame effects and stuff. Like, my mom was a hula hoop performer, and they ran like a hula hoop business for a while, and she'd hoop with a hoop on fire and things.
Whoa.
So these were all things that I grew up around and I knew about, and then I started taking them, like really taking them seriously around 2018, 2019.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, we'll get a little more into that in a minute. But so yeah, she started telling me that she does more acrobatic work, and I was picturing like floor acrobatics because I used to take a little bit of gymnastics and do stuff on the mat. But she was like, oh, the floor is like the hardest. Or she's like, I like being in the air. I was like, that's so interesting. So I was asking her if she had an Instagram, because I was like, oh, I want to see like your videos, because she was telling me kind of where she takes classes to do that stuff. And I just think it sounds really cool. So we were exchanging Instagrams like in front of each other, and I happened to, I don't know, I don't think I ever look at anyone's Instagram as we're exchanging. Like, I usually don't really pay attention, but for some reason, when I looked at hers, I thought that you had a Christmas tree on your bio at first, and I was like, and this was like a bit ago, you know, it really wasn't Christmas season. I mean, it's still not really. And I was like, does this girl celebrate Christmas all year round? Or like, I just was like, and then I looked at it more closely and I was like, oh no, wait, it doesn't have lights. It's just like a pine tree. And then I saw her bio just had a pine tree, an ear, and then like a regular tree. And I was just, for some reason, it just really stuck out. And I was like, wait, what's like tree, ear, tree? And then what did you say?
So the trees are because I love trees. I'm going into forestry. I'm finishing high school right now, and then I'm headed to college in the 25-26 year. And the ear is because I'm deaf, and it's got to hit, that ear has a little hearing aid in it, just like I do.
Wow. So she told me that the ear was because she was deaf, and I was like, wait, what? I was so shocked because we had been talking and it seemed like she could hear me fine, but then do you want to explain a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so I have progressive hearing loss. So I wasn't born deaf. Around 12 or 13, I failed my first hearing exam. And when I was like 15, I got my first pair of hearing aids. Still have them to this day. They've been by me.
Wow.
But I just, like, I will continue to get deafer until either it stops or there's no deafer to get.
Wow.
But it's been really interesting. I've had a lot of practice in, like, understanding people throughout all of that. And filling in the blanks. It's kind of like playing Mad Libs. Like, oh, she said this, I understood this. What could have been in between those two things?
Wow. And can I ask you how old you are right now?
I'm 18.
Okay. Wow, you're so young. Wow, so it's been like a few years that you've had the hearing aid.
Yeah.
So when we were chatting, I was like, I don't know. It was just so interesting because you were telling me the story that as someone who hears, it made me sad. I was like, wait, you're going to keep losing your hearing? But you had like this big smile on your face. And when you were telling me, and you're just such a sweet person and you're so encouraging. And that kind of stuff like inspires me. When I see someone that kind of has a struggle that maybe not everybody has, but yet you seem to have so much joy and you're like a beautiful dancer. So I also was like, wait, how do you, you normally use your hearing aid when you're dancing, but sometimes you don't, right?
No, sometimes especially more recently, I've been taking them out more because I find that I like really sink into the choreo and I don't worry about as much of like, oh, these like auditory cues that I'm working so hard with my brain to find, but more just like feeling, oh, this feels right, this feels where this needs to be, especially in Lolly's class where that kind of like all meshes together into this flowy piece.
Yeah. When you're not wearing the hearing aid, is it you can still hear a little bit, or is it more like you feel the sound of it?
I can feel more than I can hear.
Okay.
Without the hearing aids, yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting. It's like, it seems way harder to dance like that, but at the same time, it's like, it illuminates like a different senses that are hard for me to get into.
Yeah.
Like, it's harder for me to like feel the music, but you're kind of like forced to do that. And you're such a beautiful dancer, and let's talk about, I want to hear about all that you're doing in dance now and kind of how you got started. And I know you just recently moved here from Texas, so I want to kind of hear about that. But really quickly, let's talk about the class we just took, which was only your second time at Sarah's. So we usually take Lolly's Contemporary on Wednesday night, but this was Sarah's Contemporary on Saturdays, which I love, and I've been going to for a bit now, like for probably almost a year or something. But this is your second time. So what did you think about Sarah's Contemporary?
I really like it. I like that she focuses on like technique and like hitting things, because that's something that is like, I can dance, I can do the flowy, I can piece things together. My transitions, I feel like that's my strong suit, but it's the like hitting and holding something and the like being super precise. So I found her first class a little intimidating, and it's a little more fast paced and focusing on that technique, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so when I get into that headspace, it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
But I've really liked it, and I find that it helps me pick up the choreo faster in other classes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Whenever you're taking a class that's a little more of a struggle with picking up choreo, then you go to other classes that aren't as hard, and you're like,
this is a breeze.
Oh, this is nothing. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like how these floors are so slippery here at Athletic Garage, and then I go to a place that doesn't have slippery floors, and I'm like, oh, turns are so easy.
Yeah.
Which is what Sarah often tells us in ballet. She says, like, I know the floors are slippery, but it's actually really building your core more and your ability to balance. And then when you're not on a slippery floor, it's like you just took the weights off. Like, oh, I can really do this now. So, and I have noticed that. So that's been kind of cool. But yeah, I was telling you earlier that contemporary with Lolly is actually harder for me, even though supposedly it's easier, but like her more flowy style that's a little slower is actually harder for me. So it's just interesting, like depending like what your experience is. But yeah, so what does your current week look like? So you're in high school?
Yeah, I'm in an online high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And do you do it online because you're doing so many classes for...
No, so in 7th grade, which was like 2019, I transferred to online school because I was just like, I wasn't feeling super challenged in school, and I was getting my work done early, and I just didn't have a lot to do. So I just stopped kind of going, and then they were like, hey girl, you kind of have to show up to school, like attendance is important. So we started looking at alternatives, and my mom runs her own business, so she couldn't like homeschool or anything.
Okay.
And we found this online school for kids who are, it is a lot of dancers, a lot of rodeo kids, kids with disabilities that can't have the same school schedule.
Yeah.
Need to be more flexible. I really enjoy it, and it's really great.
Do you, are you taking the classes with other kids at a certain time?
We have live classes. I make it to some of them.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm at work. The ones that you don't make it to, you can just like watch the recording of, and then you have your coursework that's every day.
Okay. And this feels more challenging?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think because I have to learn it myself, so I don't have like the easier access to like, oh, just explain this thing in
Yeah.
a way that works for me, but like trying to decipher it and then doing my own research on top of school to try and understand and reading the
Yeah.
textbooks, and it takes more time, but it's also, I think, made me a better student overall.
Yeah. That makes sense. And then do you have extra time for acrobatics and dance and
Yeah.
everything too?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I
love
only
that.
do school for like an hour and a half, 2 hours a day.
Wow, what a dream.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds amazing. And how long, wait, you've been doing online since seventh grade?
And
Wow.
I'm in my senior year.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, sidetrack. Did you say what you're going to do? Are you going to college or, okay.
Yeah, so I've applied. I hope I get in. I feel pretty confident to Cal Poly Humboldt.
Oh, nice.
Because they back up to the Redwood Community Forest, so it's a very hands-on forestry program.
Nice. Oh, it's so funny that you love trees because just recently, I mean, obviously I'm not doing it for a career, but just recently, it's like I notice every tree and I'm taking pictures of like every tree.
Yeah.
My Instagram keeps being like, I love this tree. I love this tree. Because I don't know why. I've never been like someone that's super into nature. Like, of course, I like nature like anyone. But like recently, it's like I'm so like caught off guard by beautiful trees.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this, like, they're all so different and it's so cool.
Yeah, I was really scared when I moved here because I was like, there's not going to be any trees. But
Oh.
there's so many trees in Pasadena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, there's tons of trees here.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because, like, I moved here originally from Illinois, and it was interesting coming here and just seeing so many palm trees.
Yeah.
At first, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Palm trees. We don't have that where I grew up. And then once I was here enough years, I was like, okay, I'm kind of sick of palm trees. So, like, whenever I see a street that has more, like, what I call, like, regular trees, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm in the Midwest again. And I love it because then in fall, those kind of trees, like, change leaves and stuff. But yeah, there is, but actually Pasadena has, like, a lot. But you're from Texas.
I
And
am.
where were you at in Texas?
Northeast. So I am in the green part of
Okay,
Texas. I'm
okay.
in a region that's called the Piney Woods because
Okay.
it's literally just pine trees everywhere.
Wow. This is probably how you fell in love with trees.
Maybe so. Maybe
Yeah.
so.
It is kind of interesting. Your family is all like circus, hula hoops, and then you're like, I want to be in the trees.
Yes.
I mean,
love
I guess
the
it kind of
trees.
fits.
It does.
It all goes together. It's kind of like, I don't know why it goes together, but I guess when you were saying like Burning Man, and that's like, I'm thinking about that being outdoors and
And a bunch
I
of
don't know.
hippies.
I don't know. Yeah, honestly, that's probably where my mind is going, like to love nature and the trees and everything. But that's so cool. Things are falling in my car. That's why I'm like a little distracted. We have some trying to get some like shade in here. 1 second. Okay, so you're doing online school, and so how many classes, like acrobatic and dance, are you taking a week?
It depends on my work schedule. I try and work off of that because sometimes like Thursdays I have my level 3 pole class, which is like really hard skills moves. It's my most challenging class.
And where do you take it?
Beehive, which is like a couple blocks from here.
Okay.
But it ends at 1. The bus leaves at 1:03, and I always miss it. And then work is at 2:30.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's like I get home, and the bus that drops me off, I'm supposed to be getting on to go to work. So if I have someone who can like take me to work, then I can take that one. But if not, then I like have to skip it that week. So I'd say I probably like for acrobatics, probably like 2 or 3 classes a week, and then usually I take ballet and contemporary. And then I've been getting into the Saturday class, too.
Yeah, that's a good amount. I mean, I forgot you also have a job.
Yes.
Because when I first met you, I knew you were young, but I didn't realize you were still in high school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to do school, at least it's not, like, full day of school.
Yeah.
But school and a job and dance and, like, pole. And what's the one called with the metal ring?
Lyra.
Lyra.
Yeah.
Do you take... so you take at Beehive. What other studios do you take at?
I don't take with any other studios.
Oh, okay.
I haven't found... like my silks and my lyra are back home. I have a rig there that my dad put together for me, and but I haven't been able to find anywhere here that's like close by that I can go practice.
Okay.
Because it's all like these aerial studios, and I understand that it's for safety, but they don't have like an evaluation that you can do to get into a higher class. You have to go through the full series, and like I don't want to start at ground zero again. So I haven't really been doing that much. I did some lyra when I went back home recently, and that was very nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are your parents out here now too?
No, my folks are still back in Texas.
I think you might have told me, but why did you end up moving out here?
So that I could get in-state tuition.
Oh,
yeah,
for college.
Yeah, and I have cousins
smart.
who live in Altadena, so I was like, I can stay with them. And
oh, nice. Yeah. Wow. So how are you liking it out here so far?
I am liking it quite a bit.
Okay.
It is like a little bit of like a shock. I lived in a very rural area. Like some of my neighbors had cows. Like I saw cows every day driving in the mailbox. We had ducks.
Also, you have to drive to your mailbox?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a mile from my house.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just like, it was so different moving here and then being like, I can just walk outside and the store is 2 blocks down, not a 30-minute drive.
Yeah. Wow. And do you have a car back there in Texas?
No, I drove my mom's car.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I did in high school too. Wow. Well, it's so cool to have you out here. Yes. I'm so glad you're out here.
Me too.
How did you end up finding, I guess Athletic Garage is pretty close to where you're living.
Yeah.
How did you hear about it?
I just started on Google Maps, and I was like, I kept looking for dance classes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to live in the city so I can actually take ballet and contemporary. And so I just started looking around and finding places, and a lot of them were like, it was hard to find adult ballet.
Really?
Yeah.
There's actually kind of a lot.
Yeah.
You do have to find it.
Yeah, you have to find it. And it was like looking around in this area because I didn't know like how I was going to rely on the bus. I didn't know about the transport system. I was just like, if I can bike and walk places, then that can work. So these were like, okay, that's 3 miles. It was like 3 miles downhill and then 3 miles uphill back. That's not that bad.
Yeah, that is a different story when you have to figure out all of those logistics as you're trying to figure out where to take class at. Okay, cool. So can you tell me kind of how... Now, did you grew up in Texas? You were born there?
I was born in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
And I lived there for a while, and then I lived on a school bus that my dad had converted into like an RV type thing. We lived on that for a while until my mom was like, she has to go to school. And we ended up settling down in Texas.
Wow, that's like... You just sound like you had a very interesting upbringing.
It was an eventful
exciting.
childhood. There were so many things going on. I loved it.
And do you have siblings?
I do. I have one sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is she also like creative or?
She is. She's very country girl. She's really into motorcycles and cars, and she rides dirt bikes.
Wow.
And she loves Legos. And
Is she older or younger?
Younger.
Okay.
Younger. She's 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's still in Texas. Okay. Do you miss her?
Yeah, she calls me every day.
Aw, cute. Does she want to come out here?
Yes, and I want her to come take classes because she recently started jazz. I've been like trying to push her into dance for a while because it's like, you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get her to come out here and take jazz classes.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. That'd be so fun. So tell me how you like actually, I know your parents have kind of this history of, you know, the creative arts and everything. When did you first get started in like dance or acro or?
So like there were things here and there in my childhood because these apparatuses were just around. So we'd go to like a wedding and there was a lyra and I was like, I can do this and I can do shapes and I really like shapes.
You just like naturally felt like you could do it and you did?
I always really gravitated towards dance, I think, but I was also like, there was a certain amount of like being scared to be girly. And dance was girly in my head.
Okay.
And so, like, I didn't really get into ballet until, like, middle school. I had a friend who was in ballet, and I wanted to go so bad. And she was like, you're going to love lyrical because it's barefoot. And I was like, okay. And I would go every now and again and, like, take classes at her ballet school. And I loved it so much. And I'd go home and I'd, like, do all the things again in my room late at night. And I was like, I'm just a secret dancer. And then when I started getting into, like, silks and lyra and stuff, I started dancing more. And you'd catch me in the Walmart doing my groceries, just dancing.
Wow.
But it's really, like, in the past couple of months since I moved here, I feel like all the anxiety that surrounded dance has just melted away.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
you don't seem anxious or anything. You seem very comfortable and really, really a beautiful dancer. I love watching you dance. And you always have these, like, I don't know, I feel like your outfits, it's like your dancing is beautiful and flowy, and then you have, like, this flowy hair, and you have, like, these flowy outfits sometimes, and I'm like, dang, girl, it just looks good. It's really cool. So you kind of got into dance, I can't remember, you told me earlier in the podcast, I think, but was it around the time that you also learned about your hearing, or was that sooner?
Earlier. The hearing loss is more recent.
Okay,
yeah.
So that was after, like, junior high and...
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, like, did you have, like, emotions going through that of kind of learning that was happening after you'd already been into all of these arts that, like, require music and things like that?
You would think I would have been more upset about it, but it's really interesting. As a kid, I had an American Girl doll, and I would get the catalogs. I would go in the back of the catalogs and I'd circle the hearing aids, and I was like, if I ever go to the American Girl doll store, I'm going to get her hearing aids, and I feel like my doll needs hearing aids. And I was so obsessed with deaf people, and I like wanted to learn sign language so bad. Yeah, like I'd circle.
But this was before you knew you had any, like...
Before I knew anything. Wow. And I wanted to learn sign language. I had started learning sign language online before I knew that I was going deaf. And then when it happened, it was kind of like I was not devastated that it was happening. The only thing that, like, upsets me about it is how people treat you differently.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. How would you say, like, what are ways that people treat you differently?
They act like I'm more incapable of things.
Okay.
So, like, oh, but she can't because she's deaf. Or they don't put in the effort for communication. So, like, oh, I'm sorry, can you just face me when you're talking? They'll be like, oh, no, it doesn't matter, whatever.
Really?
Like, I would like to be included in the conversation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of... I'm surprised about that, but, I mean, wow, that's crazy. That's so fascinating to me that you already... It's like you were being prepared.
Like I knew before I knew or something.
Like it was already in your heart to, like, learn sign language, and you had, like, compassion for that, for people with that, and then... You didn't know that was going to be, like, you were going to be part of that. Yeah. But then here you are, and you're so able to do so much, you know? Yes. I mean, that's why I was so shocked when you told me, because I was like, wait, it doesn't seem, I didn't notice at all. And when you think about that, like how you said, oh, I'm just going to keep getting deafer every year. I mean, do you also feel like at peace with that sort of, or are you hoping that something will change with that, or that there would be a miracle, or like, how do you feel about that?
So I actually talked to this about my dad on our drive out here. He mentioned it, like, if there was a cure, would, you'd want that, right? And I said, no.
Really?
No. I can't imagine going, like, I don't even fully, like, I cannot comprehend the memory of hearing. Like, it doesn't really exist.
Okay.
I don't have sound in my memory. I don't usually dream with sound. It's just kind of, it is who I am, and I feel like it would change so much about me as a person and my soul and, like, how I experience life, that I wouldn't be me anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, that's what I noticed about you, is you just seem to have, like, a joy and a peace.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't seem, I mean, people get anxious about all kinds of stuff that's not even really that big of a deal. And whenever I see someone that has something that they're struggling with like that, but then they just have so much joy and peace, it's like, it kind of gives me a fresh perspective of, like, oh my gosh, it's like, sometimes it's just about our attitude and a mindset, and you have so much going for you, and you seem really full of hope, and I just love that. And I wanted to ask you, because you were saying that, people treat you differently sometimes or whatever, do you feel like you found, like, a decent group of friends, like, in high school or through classes, who don't do that, who you feel like you can connect with and everything?
Yeah, I have all my deaf friends back home. I haven't really found a deaf community out here yet.
Okay.
Because it's just so spread out, while as back home, like, it was so concentrated.
Okay.
Like, everybody knew everybody.
Okay.
But I have, through work, like, I've made a lot of really great friends, and here, like, there's plenty of people here. In this studio, nobody's ever treated me differently.
Yeah.
Because of that. Like Sarah starts her, she tells us, like, to close your eyes and keep your ears open. And the first time I came to her class, I was like wide-eyed. I was like,
I didn't think
that's
about
the one
that.
thing I cannot do, ma'am. And she's like, no, you're good. And she like, stands near me, and she makes sure that I can still see her face when she's giving us the meditation thing. And
do you generally always tell a teacher before class about it? Okay.
Yes, especially if it's my first time taking a class, I try and show up early so that I can catch them and let them know. The only time I haven't was my first ballet class with her, and I went up to her after, and she was like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me?
Wow, that's really cool. I'm glad to hear that you're having, like, good experiences in the dance studios and everything. That's really great, because I'm sure those teachers are probably not very used to, like, oh, I need to think about that a little bit now, the teachers out here, there are so many really great teachers who really care about teaching, and I see them have just the way that they treat people. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, I don't have, like, the patience that some of my dance teachers have, the way that they work with all levels, and the way that they have patience for all types of people, and teaching people who are very new and people who are more advanced, even in the same class sometimes, and I see how they work with different people, and I'm like, wow, I'm inspired, because I don't know if I would even be that, like, kind and patient and just able to work with everyone. And then when there's new sorts of challenges, like with you telling them different things and stuff you need, and to hear that they're, like, just going with that and, like, oh yeah, I want to think about that now. That's really cool to hear, because I already feel that way about the teachers, that they really do that and they care about people. But to hear that from you, it's really good to hear. I'm glad you're not like, oh, I go and I tell them and they don't care at all and they don't pay attention to me or something.
No, yeah, they're all really great. Like, Lolly comes up to me every now and again, and she's like, what can I do? Like, and so my big thing is just being able to see. Like, being able to see, I can understand. If I can see, I can understand.
Yeah.
When we're stretching, when we're getting the warm-ups and we're folded over, I can't see.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, tapping on the floor, or I have at the pole studio, there's a teacher who asks people to move so that I can sit closer to her and see, like, exactly what we're doing, and she'll have me do, like, opposite sides. So the first side I can see everything we're doing, and then the second side I already know what the combo for that warm-up is. Yeah.
That's really great. I love that. I love that everything's just provided for you as you communicate what you need, and that, like, you haven't found that to be too difficult, minus, like, I mean, we all have people in our lives that are just rude sometimes and don't care. And
it is what it is.
It is what it is. There's always going to be people like that, whatever the reason is, you know? And so it's cool. It's just cool to hear that you're just getting everything you need generally. And I know you want to go into forestry and everything. Do you also have a specific dream or goal with dance, or you just want to keep doing it?
I want to keep doing it. I want to compete more. I did my first ever pole competition, literally a couple weeks after moving here.
Whoa.
And I got second place. I was really proud of myself. Awesome. I've worked on it for like 9 months. And like sitting and watching everybody, it's just such a great community. And I would love to continue competing. I loved being on stage. It was so thrilling. And even just being backstage with everybody who has like common interests.
Yeah, that's so cool. Are you competing? Did you hear about the competitions through your studio, or did you just research and just go to one?
My old studio, I went up to my teacher, Pam, love her, and she is like the big competition person there, and so I asked her about it, and she got me all set up with the pole sport organization.
Oh, nice.
And how to set up all of that, and I was like, awesome, I'm just gonna do it here when I get there, and it was so much fun.
That's so cool. I love that. Yeah, I've been hearing, I hear of a lot of people, so I interview a lot of people that are older, and they talk about their childhood, and sometimes they don't have a great experience with like dance competitions and stuff like that. But more recently, I've been hearing people talk about it and say how much they loved it and how they just loved performing. And it was just another way to perform again.
Yeah.
And so that was cool to hear. I actually want to get more into performing. I haven't done that in a really long time. But there is an organization here. I keep talking about this on the podcast. Oh my gosh. I'm like, I should be like I'm like their little advertiser. Yeah. But there's an organization called LA Unbound. Have you heard of that?
Briefly, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, they're not doing – well, actually, they accept choreography. I mean, anyone can submit choreography. So, I mean, you could offer something maybe more creative. But generally, I don't think they've done, like, pole before or anything.
Yeah.
But they have contemporary and stuff. And they usually do 2 shows a year. And it's adults. Are you considered an adult?
Yeah, in dance studios,
okay.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I was like, wait, does this apply to you? I think it does. But, yeah, and they usually do the auditions at Athletic Garage, and a lot of the rehearsals are around the area. Okay. So they hold an audition, and they have the choreographers show different parts of their pieces, and you can actually put on a sheet, like, which ones you are interested in.
Oh,
and
awesome.
It's really cool. And then you spend all day just, like, auditioning. You can audition with any style you want to audition with. It's just kind of like a bunch of free classes. And then they try to cast everyone. You put how many, like, you're willing to be in. So if you only put, like, one and then that person doesn't need you, like, you might not get in it. But as long as you put, like, some options, they try to cast everyone. And I know a lot about it. I haven't actually done it yet, performed in it. But I've seen a lot of their shows, and they're really good, actually.
That's really cool.
I might do it. The next auditions are going to have, I think, are in February. So I might finally be like... The reason I haven't done it is because I love my class schedule, and I hate to mess it up with, like, something else. But it's so silly because, like, performing is such a good skill to have, and I want to, like, really try it and see, like, how it goes. But
yeah, I'll have to look into that and see if maybe I'm capable in February of doing that.
Yeah, for sure. We're getting close to the end here, so gosh, it went by so fast. But is there anything else you want to share with the dance community? Just anything about that you've experienced in LA so far, or anything, any advice you want to give anyone, or just anything else you want to share about?
Just dance.
Just dance.
I meet so many people who I love dancing. I could never dance in front of anybody, or I'll be dancing at the store and I see someone who's like, oh, I wish I could do that. Just do it. And do it scared. If you're scared, do it scared. I understand. I get the anxiety. But if you can just push yourself through it, I promise it's just, you will feel so much better. And then you'll do it again. And then you'll do it again. And you'll be like, oh, this isn't as scary as it was before.
Yeah.
And then you'll do something that was maybe a little scarier than that.
Yeah.
And realize that it makes you so happy that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, that's so good. That's really good advice. Because I was just thinking about that the other day, that the things I enjoy the most in life are usually things I started out scared.
Yeah.
And then that's the thing I like love.
Mm-hmm.
But I still sometimes get a little scared every time. Even I take so many dance classes, and still every time I'm like, okay, we're learning the choreo. I still get a little bit like, I hope I can pick it up. I hope, even though I take class all the time, but it's slowly more and more. It's like less. It's like, whatever. It's just class. We'll see what happens. And then I'm hoping that once I start performing, I'll become like less scared about that too. Because I am kind of scared about that. But that's really great advice. And it was so nice talking to you, Navi. And I'm glad that you made this time for me, even though we just met. And it's so fun dancing with you. And I just hope the best for you. And congratulations that you're going to be done with school soon.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
Thank you so much for having me. This was lovely.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you guys for watching or listening. And we hope you have a good day. Bye.